Otto von Bismarck was a man of iron will, razor-sharp intellect, and political cunning. Known as the Iron Chancellor, he was the architect of German unification and one of the most influential statesmen of the 19th century in a Europe torn by revolutions and rivalries. Bismarck stood out not for idealism, but for cold, calculated strategy. With his famous words, "The great questions of the day will not be settled by speeches and majority decisions, but by iron and blood," he made it clear that power, not politics, would shape the future. This is the story of how one man united a fractured land, built an empire, and changed the fate of a continent. Otto von Bismarck was born on April 1, 1815, in the rural town of Schaffhausen in the Kingdom of Prussia. He came from a family of the Junker class, the conservative and landowning aristocracy that held significant influence in Prussian society. His father was a former military officer, and his mother, intelligent and ambitious, had high hopes for her son's future. Bismarck studied law at the universities of Göttingen and Berlin, where he gained a reputation for being brilliant but rebellious. After a short and uneventful stint in the Prussian civil service, he withdrew to manage his family estates, leading a somewhat isolated life. But beneath the surface of a country gentleman was a sharp, restless mind that closely observed the political storms gathering across Europe. The revolutionary waves of 1848 would soon offer Bismarck the opportunity to enter the world of politics, one he would come to dominate with unmatched mastery. Bismarck's political journey began in the turbulent 1840s, a decade marked by growing unrest and revolutionary ideas sweeping across Europe. In 1847, he was elected to the Prussian Landtag, where he quickly gained a reputation as a staunch conservative and fierce defender of the monarchy. Unapologetically anti-liberal, he believed that order and authority were essential to preserve the strength of the Prussian state, while others called for constitutional reforms and civil liberties. Bismarck stood firmly with the crown, advocating for the divine right of kings and a strong central government. His sharp rhetoric and unwavering loyalty earned him recognition in royal circles. This eventually led to diplomatic appointments, first as ambassador to Russia and then to France. These roles were not just honorary. They were crucial to shaping his understanding of European power dynamics. Bismarck absorbed the complexities of international diplomacy, mastered the art of manipulation, and began laying the foundation for a grand strategy that would change the map of Europe forever. In 1862, Otto von Bismarck was appointed Prime Minister of Prussia by King Wilhelm I at a moment of deep political crisis. The Prussian parliament was deadlocked over military funding, with liberal factions refusing to approve the king's plans for army reform. Wilhelm, frustrated and desperate, turned to Bismarck, a man known for his unwavering loyalty to the monarchy and his disdain for liberal politics. Shortly after his appointment, Bismarck gave one of the most iconic speeches in modern history, declaring that the great issues of the time would be decided not by speeches and majority decisions, but by blood and iron. With these words, he sent a clear message: military strength and decisive action, not parliamentary debate, would shape the destiny of nations. His appointment triggered intense opposition from the liberal members of parliament, who saw Bismarck as a threat to constitutional governance. Yet Bismarck was undeterred. He bypassed the parliament altogether, collecting taxes and funding military reforms without official approval. This bold move was technically unconstitutional, but it worked. Bismarck gambled on the idea that success on the battlefield would silence his critics at home, and he was right. By asserting royal authority over parliamentary resistance, Bismarck not only saved the king's military reforms, but also established himself as the true power behind the throne. The wars of German unification were a masterclass in political strategy and military precision, orchestrated by Bismarck to bring the German states under Prussian dominance. The first step came with the Danish War in 1864. Bismarck formed a temporary alliance with Austria to challenge Denmark's control over the duchies of Schleswig and Holstein territories with mixed German and Danish populations. The war was swift, and Denmark was defeated. As a result, Prussia took control of Schleswig, and Austria administered Holstein. But this uneasy arrangement was never meant to last. Bismarck used it as a stepping stone for his next, more decisive move. In 1866, Bismarck provoked Austria into a confrontation, triggering the Austro-Prussian War. Before doing so, he skillfully isolated Austria diplomatically, ensuring that other European powers, especially France and Russia, would not intervene. The war culminated in a decisive Prussian victory at the Battle of Knigritz. Austria was forced to accept Prussia's dominance in northern Germany and was excluded from German affairs. In the aftermath, Bismarck dissolved the old German Confederation and created the North German Confederation, a new political structure with Prussia at its head, effectively unifying the northern German states. The final and most dramatic act came with the Franco-Prussian War of 1870–71. Bismarck knew that a common enemy could unite the still independent southern German states with the North. He cleverly edited and leaked a diplomatic communication, the EMS dispatch, to provoke France into declaring war on Prussia. The move enraged Napoleon III, who took the bait. The German states rallied together against a common foe, and Prussian-led forces crushed the French army. Napoleon III was captured, and Paris fell in January 1871. In the Hall of Mirrors at the Palace of Versailles, the German Empire was proclaimed, with King Wilhelm I of Prussia crowned as the first German emperor. Bismarck's long campaign was complete. Germany was united under Prussian rule. As Chancellor of the newly formed German Empire from 1871 to 1890, Bismarck turned his focus from unification to consolidation. Domestically, one of his first major campaigns was the Kulturkampf, a struggle against the influence of the Catholic Church, which he saw as a threat to national unity. He introduced laws to reduce the Church's power in education and civil affairs, attempting to bring the Catholic population under tighter state control. However, the policy backfired, strengthening Catholic political activism and forcing Bismarck to eventually ease up on the restrictions. At the same time, Bismarck was deeply concerned about the rising socialist movement, which he viewed as a danger to the monarchy and social order. In response, he passed harsh anti-socialist laws that banned socialist parties and publications. Yet, in a strategic twist, he also introduced groundbreaking social reforms designed to win the working class over to the state. These included the world's first national health insurance, accident insurance, and old age pensions, measures that laid the foundation for the modern welfare state. On the international stage, Bismarck's brilliance continued through his cautious and calculated diplomacy. With Germany now a major power, he focused on maintaining peace and stability in Europe to protect the empire's position. He avoided further wars, understanding that a powerful but isolated Germany would provoke fear among its neighbors. To counterbalance France, which remained bitter over its defeat, Bismarck created a web of alliances. These included the League of the Three Emperors with Russia and Austria-Hungary, and later the Triple Alliance with Austria-Hungary and Italy. These diplomatic networks kept France isolated and prevented major conflict on the continent for decades. Bismarck's foreign policy was driven by pragmatism, not conquest, and his goal was always to preserve the empire he had built without risking its survival in unnecessary wars. Bismarck's downfall began with the accession of Kaiser Wilhelm II in 1888, a young and ambitious emperor who wanted to assert his own authority and break free from the shadow of the Iron Chancellor. The relationship between the two quickly soured. Wilhelm II was eager for a more aggressive and hands-on approach to governance, while Bismarck preferred careful diplomacy and control from behind the scenes. Their disagreements grew, particularly over social policy and foreign affairs. By 1890, the tension reached a breaking point. Wilhelm II demanded greater influence in state matters, and Bismarck, unwilling to compromise or share power, found himself increasingly isolated. Eventually, the Kaiser forced him to resign, a humiliating end for the man who had unified Germany and dominated European politics for nearly 3 decades. After his resignation, Bismarck retired to his estate in Friedrichsruhe. Though removed from power, he remained politically active through his writings and memoirs, often criticizing Wilhelm's decisions. One of his most serious warnings was about the fragile nature of Germany's alliance with Russia. He feared that alienating Russia would leave Germany vulnerable to a two-front war in outcome he had worked tirelessly to avoid. Tragically, his warnings were ignored, and just a few decades later, Europe plunged into the First World War. Bismarck lived long enough to see the direction Germany was heading under Wilhelm's rule, and though he remained a proud nationalist, he never stopped worrying about the consequences of rash leadership and unchecked ambition. Otto von Bismarck died on July 30, 1898, at the age of 83, at his estate in Friedrichsruhe. His death marked the end of an era. He had been the towering figure of German and European politics for nearly half a century, though out of power for 8 years. His influence lingered over Germany, both in admiration and controversy. Bismarck's legacy is complex and far-reaching. He is remembered as the mastermind behind German unification, a political genius who used war, diplomacy, and manipulation to forge a powerful empire from a patchwork of independent states. He was the architect of Realpolitik, a strategy based on pragmatism and the pursuit of national interest over ideology or ethics. His social policies laid the groundwork for the modern welfare state, even as his authoritarian methods limited democratic development. But his legacy is also shadowed by unintended consequences. The empire he created was strong but rigid, and his suppression of liberal and socialist movements planted seeds of discontent. His dismissal of Russia and manipulation of European alliances, once carefully balanced, began to unravel after his departure, leading to the volatile conditions that eventually sparked World War I. Bismarck was both a unifier and a divider, a brilliant statesman who gave Germany its empire, but also left behind a fragile system that others could not manage as skillfully. His life remains a powerful example of how one man's vision can shape history, for better and for worse. Otto von Bismarck was a man of paradoxes, an aristocrat who introduced social welfare, a conservative who mastered revolutionary tactics, and a peacemaker who waged war to secure it. He unified Germany not through ideals or popular will, but through calculated power plays and relentless strategy. His legacy challenges us to consider the cost of ambition and the delicate balance between authority and democracy. Though his empire is long gone, Bismarck's influence still echoes in the political landscape of Europe and the world. He remains a symbol of what one determined mind can achieve, and a reminder of how fragile even the greatest achievements can be in the hands of those who follow.